is the Adoptive Mom Podcast. Adoption may look different for each family, but we need solidarity from other crazy people who took this leap. And that is what we do here. We encourage, we build up, we share the wins and losses. We lean on each other, and we get through this together. Thanks for joining us. Welcome, you guys, to the season finale of season 4 of the Adoptive Mom Podcast. Like I said, this is episode 15 of season 4, and that is episode 63 overall, which puts us much closer to 100 episodes than one episode. And that makes me so happy because that is 63 episodes of you and I connecting and bringing solidarity and encouragement to the adoptive moms who are in the trenches. You know, we've all said yes to this really hard thing, and that's going to take a lot of teamwork, a lot of encouragement, a lot of self-care being poured into, and just all of the things. And you and I are doing that together. And I love getting to connect with you guys in this way. And my special guest and I today were able to do that as well. So, you know, I've done a lot of teasing about this, but I got to sit down with Leanne Toohey. And if that's ringing some bells, but you're not really sure where to place her, Sandra Bullock played her in the movie The Blind Side. So she and I got to talk not only about her story, but also just her heart for orphan care and how we all need to be involved to fix this very broken part of our world. You know, if you're familiar with her story, she is an adoptive mom of one son and she has 2 bio kids, and she's going to tell that a lot better than me. But her heart has led her to be a writer and a speaker and an advocate for, you know, the kids that fall through the cracks. Those are her passion. She wants to teach us as adults and us as adoptive moms to find them and to help them and to seek after their hearts just as we do our own. And so it was a really great conversation. Before we get into that, like I said earlier, this is the season finale, which means we're going to take a little bit of a break, and then I'll come back to you in August with season 5. We're going to talk later in the episode about how we can stay connected during that time. But until then, let's sit down with Leanne Toohey. All right, everyone, welcome to the Adoptive Mom Podcast, and a special welcome to my guest today who doesn't know it yet, but she has been an adoption role model of mine for a very long time. With that said, welcome to the show, Leanne Toohey. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm great. How are you doing today?
You know, I'm a little, I'll be honest, I'm super excited to talk to you, so I'm trying to, calm it down.
Take 3 deep breaths, and we're going to have a great time.
Yeah, you'll coach me through the call, right?
I got this. Don't worry about it. I got it.
Well, I'm super excited. So I know that everyone listening is probably familiar with your story, but can you just take a second and just introduce us to your family?
Well, my family is probably most well-known from the movie The Blind Side. It's been a crazy journey we've been on. We're coming up on the 10-year anniversary of the movie, which is crazy, but it's been an unexpected, unplanned journey, and it's amazing every day where God takes us and leads us. But we are all doing well, and Michael and Collins and SJ, which if you've seen the movie, you're familiar with those 3 names, and then my husband Sean. Actually, we're getting ready to celebrate our 38-year anniversary on June the 12th. So I have managed to successfully train him, and he is just a great husband. And so it's an awesome journey. But that's probably where you would recognize our name from. Is from the movie.
Absolutely. And I love, congratulations, by the way, happy anniversary. And I love that you, I love how you put it, that you trained him.
He is very well trained. He's a great guy. I'm very blessed and fortunate to have 3 good kids and a wonderful husband. So, healthy and happy, and what more could you ask for?
I love that. And so, the next question I always ask people is for their adoption story. And like you already mentioned, most of my listeners are probably going to be very familiar with your adoption story, but, the movie version anyway. So do you mind just taking us through kind of an overview of your side of your adoption journey?
Well, it's an unorthodox journey, which, everybody's got a story, and this just happens to be our story, and it happens to be the one that God kind of plucked out to tell. And in reality, the movie was scarily accurate. They hung around us, they shadowed us, they wanted to get it accurate. I think for that, I'm forever grateful to John Lee Hancock, who was the director. Gil Netter was the producer, and both of those are godly men. And, for Hollywood not to screw something up truly is nothing short of a miracle. And so it pretty much tells our adoption story as it happens. I mean, it wasn't planned. I didn't roll over and look at Sean one day and say, I want to adopt a child. God obviously has plans that are sometimes different than our plans. I wasn't looking to adopt a child. I knew very little about adoption. And really, we were months into it before I even realized that we needed to adopt Michael. Because truly, we were just driving down the street. He was walking down the street. We turned around and picked him up. And, if you've seen the movie, you know how the story proceeds from there. But Monday became Tuesday, and that kind of became our life. But what happened for me, the moment of realization that I needed to do and what we had done here was when I would try to take him to the doctor, or I would try to get a driver's license, or I would try to get a Social Security card, or whatever it might have been that we needed. We would run into brick walls, and we would run into people going, well, I'm sorry, why, who are you, and why are you white, and why is he black, and why are you blonde? And I would go, okay, well, none of those questions are relevant to what we're trying to do. You're just being nosy, which I found on this journey, most people are just nosy. And so but it was roadblock after roadblock, and I finally said, and then we tried to put him on our insurance, and they were like, well, you can't insure a child that's not, biological, or you haven't adopted. And it was those kind of, every time they'd run a flag up the flagpole, I would go, okay, this is crazy, and so it wasn't necessarily that we needed this legal binding piece of paper for Michael to know that we loved him or that he felt like he was a part of our family. But at that point in time, it was just a step that I felt like that we needed to take so I could ensure that he had, I could take him to the doctor and get him treated, or if he, I could get him a driver's license, or enroll him in school, or whatever it was that you needed formalities for. And so we started the adoption process, and at that, I knew nothing about it. But once again, this was a journey that God had us on so we could become a person, an advocate for, or a speaker for, or stand up for people that are in this position. I wouldn't have known anything that I know now about adoption or the flawed system that we have or the hurdles you have to go through if we hadn't have done this with Michael. So it obviously, this is where the path has led us, and this is what we are passionate about, and this is the platform that we talk about every day, is that there are so many kids like Michael that need a forever family, that need a loving, caring support system. And that is, we're passionate about teenage kids that fall through the cracks, that if given opportunity could easily become contributing members of society. And I'm all about adoption. I'm all about if you want an infant with, blue eyes and blonde hair and pigtails, that's great. Everyone, it's different strokes for different folks. And this is what our arena is, and this is just what we happen to be passionate about and want to talk about every day.
Absolutely. And I think it's such a good passion because there are so few people standing in the gaps for these kids, or even realizing that it's something that that needs to be done, because, we know I am a fellow teen boy adoptive mom. And I was amazed at how little I knew, not only about teenage boys, but just about this process and how many kids fall through the cracks and where the deficits are. And so what were some of the things that you were overcome by when you realized the incredible need for, you specifically to stand up and like I said, stand in the gaps for these kids, not just Michael?
Well, I mean, I think the most in-your-face, overwhelming was the abuse of the system, and it is just such a flawed system. And it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or you're a Republican or you're black hair or blonde hair or you're tall or you're short. It doesn't matter. This is a bipartisan problem in the United States of America that needs to be overhauled. It needs attention. The rules, the regulations, anything about it, it's archaic, it's outdated. And I think that I was just such in shock the amount of money that is thrown at the adoption system at this country and how it's misused. And it's such a veil of secrecy. And it's not something that people want to talk about at lunch, at work, around the water cooler. It's not something that, girls want to talk about in their bingo or mahjong games or tennis or men on the golf course. It's just like almost like a taboo, and it's this secret world of adoption, and no one really knows what goes on in the foster care system. And daily, we're just having kids that are aging out of foster care. I mean, I think the number's ridiculously staggering. 30,000, 40,000 kids a year age out of foster care, and they've never had a family, and they have no support system, and then they turn to crime and prostitution and drugs, and then we are staying there with this look of shock on our face, and I'm like, well, why are you shocked about this? What do you think they're going to do to survive? I mean, I don't understand tell me how you think that they can survive in this world without turning to crime. And the reality of it is, if we wiped out the need for foster care in this country, I think the statistic is 5 out of 6 females in sex trafficking come to the foster care system. We could eliminate people in prison, the sex trafficking, problem in this country. All of that could be greatly addressed just by if we would turn our attention to the foster care world. And I don't understand why all these intelligent people keep missing that. And I mean, I've tried to get involved. I've tried to get involved with politicians. It's like, they don't want to talk about it. I'm going, where do you think? I think that there was the number is crazy, stupid, like $1 billion+ a year is spent in this country on the foster care system, yet there's zero trail of accountability as to where that money goes and what it's being used for. And the reality of it is, I think there's 460,000 plus faith-based organizations in this country, and there's about 430 or 40,000 kids in foster care every year. And if every faith-based organization in this country would be responsible for one child, putting them in a loving family, monitoring it and overseeing it, one child, you would wipe out the need for foster care. So that would be one child per year for every faith-based organization. Faith-based organizations should be able to do it because we have done it on numerous times, gone to faith-based organizations and say, we have a child that has been tossed to the street. They are considered useless. We need a loving home for them. They have come up with a loving home. We have followed it. We've monitored it. We've trailed along and watched it. The kids have become wildly successful. Yes, there have been hurdles to overcome. There have been roadblocks, but you work through them just like you work through everything else. You work through issues in your marriage. You work through issues at your office. You work through issues at your educational process. You have to work through adoption problems just like everything else you do in life. And the kids have become successful. So this will work. And so I'm sitting here going, okay, why don't you just take half of the money you're spending on foster care, try to make this work, and see what happens. And instead of fighting over some of the stupid things we fight about and focusing on some of the stupid things that we focus on in this country, this actually would be a solvable problem. Now, we may not can solve Social Security issues or the national debt or whatever, but this one we could. And so I'm always perplexed. It's just always been overwhelming to me is why someone doesn't try to do something about this. And the 2 or 3 times that we have really been aggressive about it, and we have tried to do a TV show about it or air the problems with it or all the idiosyncrasies with it, people are like, you don't need to do this. You don't need to do this. And I'm like, why not? So I don't know. It's a crazy enigma, whole, like I said, veil of secrecy around this that I don't understand why we all have not collectively as a nation gotten together and said, we are going to handle this.
Definitely. And how much of this do you think is a problem with people not wanting to see it? And I say this because, before we adopted, I grew up in a normal, middle-class family. We weren't an adoptive family. I didn't grow up in a community of adoptive families or anything like that. So when we got our teenager, especially, and I heard some of the things that he had gone through and seen and been through, I was shocked. And I don't know why. I had been through the training. I had done all these things, but I'm learning that there are so many people that they kind of turn a blind eye to it because it makes them sad. They don't want to see abuse. They don't want to. It's just easier to not think about it. Do you think that that's a part of the problem as well?
Oh, yes, absolutely. We want everything to be perfect. Cupcakes and cartwheels and fairy dust and unicorns, and that's great. But people don't want to. That's why I just said, this is not like the topic of conversation that people want to talk about at their lunch break or, at dinner with their friends on Friday night. No one wants to sit around and go, oh my gosh, did you hear about the foster care kid that hadn't eaten in 5 days and was sexually abused or was basically an indentured servant that worked all day from 6 in the morning on Saturday to 6 p.m., on Sunday night selling weekend newspapers, and they gave him $1 and a loaf of bread and a jar of peanut butter. How awful was that? Or cleaning out a septic tank, or they don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. And yeah. It's not a good situation. Now, yes, there are some good people in the foster care system that are genuinely concerned and have a heart for the kids, and they want to make a difference. I'm not saying that every single person is a bad person that's involved in any shape, form, or fashion. Am I saying that? Because my path crosses on a regular basis with some fine people, and they're the heroes in the world to me. They're the people that are making a difference in these kids' lives. So there are some good people, but that's really not the norm, I don't think. I mean, or maybe my antennas are more in tune to the people that are abusing the system versus the ones that are, giving of themselves and opening their hearts and their hands to make a difference, because those people are out there. And that's great. We need more of them. But people don't really want to sit around and talk about, all the bad things, and they don't want to know that, oh my gosh, there's a kid out there that maybe I really could make a difference in his life, but do I want to get out of my comfort zone and do that? I don't know. Do I want to take a risk? Oh, I don't know. Do I? Well, you take risk every day. So it's really what you choose to take a risk on. And I can tell you from a personal experience that these kids are worth taking a risk on. Yes, Michael is a child that we adopted and that I bought. I think that I birthed him, and I think most days he does as well. But there are so many other, young ladies and young men in our lives that we have gotten involved with or continually. I mean, it's a weekly. There's someone that our paths cross with on a regular basis that we get involved with, and the norm is not happy and upbeat and loving and kind. That's not the norm. That's not what we see as the norm. And I just think that we need to open our eyes and go, man, we got to do something about this, because it's not getting any better. It's only getting worse. And with the opioid epidemic and other issues in this country that are going on right now, they're just actually just piling on to make the situation worse and worse.
Yeah, well, and I love hearing the fire in your voice about this stuff, because you know what? We need more people like you, and like other adoption advocates who are standing up and saying, this is a problem. You mentioned that your antennas were up for the problems, but I think that that's a good thing. I think that we need somebody saying, no, this is not okay. And those people can't necessarily be, in the middle of the problem. It needs somebody on the outside needs to be speaking up. And I know that you've made this your platform, and I just think that that's really awesome. And also you minister to adoptive moms like me constantly just by letting us watch you do it. And so taking it back to your adoption story, what do you think is the best way, before this was something that you traveled and spoke about, what do you think was the best way that you advocated for Michael? You mentioned taking him to the doctor and getting his driver's license, and, we've all seen the movie and stuff like that. But what do you think was the most helpful thing that you did to stand in the gap for him?
Well, I think just being there, actually, and I know that sounds so easy, but these kids, Michael was in 20-plus foster homes. That's not unusual. There's no structure. There's no stability. There's no accountability. There's no scheduling. It's not, it's like, okay, now, breakfast is going to be between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m., and then you're going to brush your teeth and wash your face, and you're going to get your backpack, and you're going to go to school, and you're going to get out at 3 o'clock, and then you were going to do your homework for 30 minutes, and then you're going to take a piano lesson, and then you're going to go to lacrosse practice, and then you're going to come home. That's what we know as norm. That's not what any foster kid or child waiting to be adopted knows as their norm at all. It's fly by the seat of your pants. It's maybe this will happen, maybe it won't happen. It's always anxietal. They're always trying to anticipate what the next move will be when they really don't know, because there's been any type of normalcy at all in their lives. And so I think for us, or when you ask me that question, my immediate thought and response would be just having structure, having someone that is going to be there, that if you need something, they can help you with it. Not if something happens, like, who in the world am I going to get to help me with this? But like, whether it is you need 5 pencils for your ACT test, or you need $2 for your lunch money, or you need a poster board for your project at school, or whatever it is. You need new shoestrings for your tennis shoes because they broke. That there's somebody you can go, hey, I need something as simple as you got this. You can do this today. You are worthy. You are valuable. You are loved, and you can do this. Chin up, crown straight, pat them on the back, have a great day, let's go. We know that is norm. Our kids that are in warm, fuzzy environments, that's just like expected. They're like, well, what do you mean my mom's not going to be there to watch me graduate from 6th grade? Or what do you mean that my dad's not going to be there to watch me in my baseball tournament this weekend? Or, well, what do you mean there's not going to be someone to cook dinner for me on Tuesday night? That they expect all that. These kids don't. And I think that is, we want to make it such a daunting task to adopt a child, especially an older child. And it's not as daunting as you think it is. It's really as simple as sometimes they're happy with a pillow and a blanket and a mattress and you saying, I'm so glad you're here. What can I do to make your day better? And sometimes it is as easy as that. It's not. And do you have to work through the process? And yes, but it's almost like we do the process anyway. They just are joining in with what you're already doing. And will it add a little bit more laundry or something like that too? Sure, it might, but you can deal with that. It's really nothing that you can't deal with. So, I think that we don't need to look at it and go, I can't do that. I think that so many people should look at the situation and go, how can I do that? And I think that would be a game changer for these kids, because I think we can all do it. We just have to figure out how we can do it. Oh, you know what? I can add another twin bed in that room, and that would be so easy. And, I can get one more pack of chicken at Costco or the grocery store or whatever it is, and this is not, I can make this work. And so I think that's how we should all look at it, and if we view it as how we can make it work versus I can't do it, so many kids would have so many more options. And, and sometimes, you don't even have to, if you don't even look at the full spectrum of I want to adopt and make them a part of my forever family, just get involved. These kids need mentors. They need tutors. They just need, could just end up being a friend of these kids. So if you're listening to me thinking, I can't adopt, you might not can. But there is something you can do. So that would even be what I would implore more than anything, is that if you could just get involved with kids, you could make a difference there as well. And then if you can adopt and you can bring them into your family, then you should. You should do that. But if you can't do that, there is still some way you can get involved and make a difference, and we need those people just as well. So I don't want people to flip this off and go, I can't adopt, I can't do this, I don't need to listen to this. Don't do that, because you might not can adopt at this point, but there is something you can do at this point.
Well, and we have to think, there's got to be way more people that are called to this than who say they are. There are way more people saying, that's not my calling. That's not what I'm supposed to be doing. We can't, but someone has to. And I feel like I'm obsessed with your answer, because I think it hands so much grace to adoptive moms, because there are so many moms out there that are saying, I don't have the love, I don't have the capacity, I don't have the time, blah, 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 blah. But what you're saying is something that we've talked about on the podcast before, is that these kids they're not used to even just basic needs being met, basic structure, basic, I know that I'm going to eat today. And if you're handing them that, then you are handing them love. And so I love that you're saying those things, like I said, because I feel like what you're handing to adoptive moms is that you can do it mentality. You can do this. It's a lot easier than you think it's going to be.
It is. And it's not necessarily easy, because I use that word too, but it is worthwhile and rewarding. And as women, we are all nurturers by nature. And once that you have, I think within 48 hours, I had fallen madly in love with Michael. It was like, well, he's always been a part of what do you mean? Yeah, he was here. And yes, he was always a part of our family. And I think that's how we are innately as human beings. We're wired for caring and for loving more than not. And that is just our innate natures, that we want to be a support system and be there for other people. And I think that happens when a child comes to live with you. It's just you was like, wow, how did I not think that this was, going to change my heart? Or how did I not think that this person was going to instantly, be the one that I thought I've got to care for them and nurture them and love them, because that's typically what happens. And so, yeah, I think that you just need to give yourself a chance. You just need to go ahead and open that door and step through it, because you will surprise yourself at the end of what the end results are. You really will, because it's just hard not to, because these kids are so appreciative and so lovely, and, and they're just starved to know that there's someone that truly cares about them, and it just breaks my heart. I'm just like, I got to fix it, but you just can't get overwhelmed by it, because nothing would get done. So you just kind of get up and put your right foot in front of your left every day and go, whatever God puts in front of me today is what I'm going to handle. And obviously, if you saw the movie, you know that I'm a huge woman of faith, and that's what primary is the most important thing in my life. And the Bible charges us to take care of widows and orphans. This isn't like it's not a box to check. We're called to do this. Mm-hmm. And I think that we lose sight of that, because this is our responsibility. And these kids are our responsibility. They didn't ask to be in this situation. There isn't a single child in this world, not one, that asks to be in a bad situation. No kid has on their to-do list, I want to be homeless, or I want to be in foster care, or I choose not to have parents, or I want to live on the street, or I want to eat out of garbage cans, or I want to have never been told I was loved. That's nobody's wish. That's nobody's desire. That's nobody's dream. Whether you're in the United States of America, or you're in Europe, or you're in Africa, or you're in Asia, or you're in South America or Canada, no matter where you are, that is no one's wish or no one's dream. And they are thrust into these situations by no choice or circumstance of their own. They didn't create these situations, and they didn't ask to be in these situations. And we, as individuals, need to look at ourselves in the mirror and go, we got to fix this. What can I do to make a difference?
All right, friends, I hope you're really enjoying my interview with Leanne Toohey. It was so much fun and so great to get to talk to her. And I have to interrupt to remind you guys of those ways to connect I mentioned earlier. So like I said, we're about to have a little bit of a break. Season 5 is going to be launching in August. But until then, my weekly emails are going to keep on trucking, and you can sign up for those at theadoptivemompodcast.com/email. That's just a great way to connect. It's a great way to get a message directly from me, and you can always hit reply on those, and I read every single one. So go and sign up for the email list. I'm not going to blow up your inbox. You'll get a message from me every Monday. It'll be great. The other best way is to join the Facebook community. So search for the Adoptive Mom Community on Facebook and you will find us. Just let me know where you're at in your journey in the little intro question, and then I will accept that, baby, and you will get to be connected with a ton of other people who listen to the podcast and just get that encouragement and that solidarity on a regular basis. And that's going to keep on through the summer and through the break. So join us now. Okay, let's get back to Leanne. I think that anyone who is doing something, stepping out in faith, following the Lord, whether it be going into the mission field or adopting a teenager, but you're always going to have people say, oh, this is a terrible idea. What if? And, if we're going by the movie, I know that you had that happen. And, you had people say, you really need to rethink this. How did you handle the people around you? You felt like this was your calling and that this was what you were supposed to be doing. What did you deal with the people who did not think that?
Well, I'm clearly a very strong-willed woman. I mean, my father was retired military and then a United States Marshal, and I was raised in that kind of you can do this attitude, go forward strongly mentality. And so many people either on my Facebook or my social media, whether it's Instagram or Twitter or whatever it might be, they'll say, my husband doesn't want to do this, or my sister doesn't think this is a good idea, or my father is very fearful of how this could end up, or whatever it might be. Well, you know what? Grow up. I mean, you've got to do the right thing. You have to take the high road. And yes, people to this day, I mean, we've had Michael 17 years now, and to this day, people will go, well, aren't you a little scared or what? I'm like, oh, my gosh. I mean, we're raising a society of chickens almost. And I'm like, get rid of the yellow streak down your back. You got to step out of your comfort zone. Nothing good's going to happen there. And you got to take a risk. And, I tell people all the time, I mean, we drive cars and tires blow out and people get killed and bridges collapse and people die in that, and we drive across bridges every day. I mean, we take risk every day. And so you can't worry about what your neighbor's going to say. You can't worry about what Aunt Betty's going to think. And you can't worry about what Billy Bob at the Baptist church is going to say about it. One, it's none of their business. And if somebody says something to you, you need to look at them and say, it's none of your business. And the last time I looked at your family, you have enough issues inside your house that you should worry about them and not what goes on inside of my house. And that really shuts the vast majority of them up because it's the honest truth. And I've used that line more times than I care to admit. But people should worry about what's going on in their world and their arena and stop worrying about what other people are doing. And then you as a person have to do the right thing. You have to take the high road. You have to be the difference maker. And, I was a little concerned about Sean. I said, what do you think about this young man coming to live with us? And I'm blessed to have a supportive husband, and he said, I'm 100% on board. If you feel this is the right thing to do, then this is definitely what we need to do. We didn't go into this looking to adopt Michael. We did not go into this looking to have a third child. We did not go into this thinking that we were going to become a voice for adoption or that I was going to become a role model for mothers in this country. But obviously a lot of that has happened, and we try to be good stewards of the message every day. But you should also go into this that all you're trying to do is make a difference in a child's life today. It's not what you're looking at 5 years down the road or 15. I mean, I don't know, in 30 years, I might not be talking to SJ, my biological kid. You don't know where life takes you. So don't look at this on a long term. Look at this as, how can I make a difference today, right now, in this child's life? And if you do that and you go into it with an attitude that you're doing the right thing and you're doing all you can to make a difference, then you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. The option of not doing anything, that's what I'm trying to implore to people day in and day out, is not the box to check. Whether you are taking chicken and biscuits to the adoption meeting, or you are signed up to teach a child to read, or you are signed up to teach a teenager how to write a check or to balance a checkbook, or to know whatever, that you might knowledge you could share with them, you're doing something. And that's what we ask people to do, is to do something.
I'm like writing furiously over here, the like timestamps to take those things as quotes, because I think that you are, like, I said earlier that you're handing grace to adoptive moms, and you're also, I feel like you're handing them gumption and this, you can do it. And you have me fired up, which is awesome. And so I want to take it back to something that you said, Sandra Bullock said in the movie, which is, that you weren't changing him, he was changing you. Do you mind kind of going into that? How has this experience really just changed your heart and your outlook on life? And I know you're talking about your platform and how you're talking to other people, but what specifically did you mean by that at that time, when he was still in your home and you could feel yourself changing?
Well, I mean, that was a true, actual line that Sandy heard that was said when, she was shadowing us and hanging out. And I think Michael Lewis had actually put it in his book, The Blind Side, because he was around a year or so writing that book. And then when John Lee Hancock got the story and he was adapting it to the screen, he used a lot of the quotes and things from Michael Lewis, and then Sandy obviously lifted them, and she, and then they put them into the movie. But it's that one, nothing could be more truer than that statement, because yes, we had an impact on Michael's life. Basically, we offered him a home and we offered him love, and that changed his life. But it was a far, 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 far greater impact on us. He had on us and we had on him, because I just think that we learned that families don't have to match. That's my motto. That's my mantra. That's my saying. I mean, I invented it. I claim it. It's my families don't have to match. And you have to learn to love people that don't look like you. And we didn't do that. We didn't know how to do that. We had never thought about doing that. There was no need for us to think about doing that. It was just something that wasn't even in our wheelhouse. So I hadn't ever looked around and said, oh, look, I need to learn to love this, Asian American looking person, or I need to learn. Those thought processes never entered my mind. We didn't know. We'd never really sat down as a family and talked about inclusion. We'd never sat down and talked about anything like that. And so it opened up so many opportunities for us to discuss with our children how we are all created equally. And there is no difference. Our blood is all red. We're all created by God. Everyone has value. Everyone deserves a chance. Everyone deserves an opportunity. And that there's a very fine line between the haves and the have-nots, and that, the haves are called to be responsible and to be givers to the have-nots. I mean, to whom much is given, much is required. And I just think that we just literally had so many moments that as a family we could go, here's why we're doing this, or this is why we need to do this, or we're going to do this because of this. And we would never have done any of that if it hadn't been for Michael coming into our home. My two biological kids would not be the people they are today. They don't know color. They don't know my kids they're what you hope all individuals will come to be, and that's loving, caring individuals, no matter what you look like, where you're from, what you're wearing, how you speak, that we are all created equally and that everyone deserves a chance. And I think that's the kind of kids that we need to be raising today, and sadly we're not. It seems like we're becoming more divided versus coming together. And Michael allowed us as a family to learn about how we need to come together. And I'm forever grateful to him for that, because if not for Michael, we wouldn't be the people we are today.
So cool. And I think that transfers nicely into the next thing I wanted to talk to you about. So that kind of brings us to today, which is that you have adult children. You made it. Congratulations. They are all launched.
I have 3 adult children. I didn't kill any of them, so that makes me a great mom because they have all survived. SJ will be 26 on July the 4th, and Collins and Michael are both getting ready to turn 33. So, I mean, I successfully did not damage my children physically, and so look, I mean, here we are, and yay.
Yeah, for sure. You get like all the awards for that. So give us some hope here, because I think that to us adoptive moms in the trenches, you know, we have littles at home, we have kids that we're like, just please don't get arrested, just please graduate high school. You know, we're talking to them like, give us some hope. What is your life like now with these kids that you poured so much of your life into?
Well, it's fun, and there becomes a point in your life where your kids become your friends. Now, I'll parent till the day I die. I mean, prime example. Last night there's bad weather. I'm not in the same city as any of my 3 kids right now, and there was bad weather going through where all 3 of them are. And so I'm texting at like 10:30. Okay, are y'all aware there could be tornado warnings? Michael, you need to go into this room. SJ, go into this room. Collins, go into this room. And Sean was like, they could handle this. I said, yeah, I don't think so. And so, yes, will you parent till the day you die? Of course you'll parent till the day you die. And that's great. That's what we're supposed to do. But it's also a lot of fun to send out a text and go, hey, let's all go to the lake for the weekend, and let's do, dinner on Sunday night, and whatever it is. And so it is fun having adult children. It's a whole different dynamics, and you do get to that point. And I think the thing I tell people a lot of times is don't wish away those younger years, because I do miss Friday night football, because there's 7.5 years difference between SJ and Collins and Michael. So we had him, he still trailed behind, and we're just a couple years being into empty nesters now. And so we had a long string of still getting to do things after Collins and Michael were basically, grown, which was also great, because I'd go, yeah, you got your brother this weekend, or you got your little brother this week. So that was kind of cool too. But don't wish away that, because it passes so quickly. I mean, it just literally in the twinkling of an eye, they're grown. I'm like, how did this happen? How did they get to all be adults? And it's kind of crazy. So enjoy the moments, even though you sit there going, oh, I got to get through this. Get through it with a happy heart, because before you know it, they're grown. And, I used to always hear my mom say that, and I thought, she has lost her mind. And it's so funny, because you become your parents as much as you want to try not to, say you won't, it's going to happen. And we become those people. And so I tell all these young mothers, enjoy it, because it passes very, very quickly. And then you just kind of go, wow, how did I get to where am I today? We're thoroughly enjoying it. I think this is a sweet spot of life. The 55 to 65 is such sweet years, because you can still enjoy your time and go, and hopefully you're blessed with good health, and whatever it is, you can get out and spend time and do things with your kids. And so, but you get here pretty quickly. And I am enjoying them as adults very much, more so than I anticipated. I'm lucky to have 3 good kids, but it's been awfully fun.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, like you said, that does give us hope, because I think that, when we're talking about our adopted kids growing up, I think there's always that fear of, what if our relationship goes south? What if we don't keep up communication? And obviously that's different for a kid that you adopt at birth. But, when it's an older kid, you're like just clinging to that relationship. And I think, that's something I'm learning as I'm about to launch my teen, is that the open-handed method is always going to be better than the close grip.
But that happens. I mean, you can't, like I said a minute ago, you can't go into it thinking, what about when they're 40 if they go back with their biological family, or I don't hear from them again? That's like, we have friends that have biological kids that they don't have communication with. Hopefully that won't happen. You don't know what's going to happen, but you can't go into it with that kind of anticipation or that thought process. You go into this saying, I'm going to make a difference today, right now, not what's going to happen 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road, 20 years down the road. Because if you look how many marriages end up in divorce. I mean, how many people would actually get married if they go, I'm going to get divorced 2 times, and I'm going to end up, finally my third marriage will be the happy one. I just better not ever get married. I mean, you think about it, it's the same theory. But people plow right on and get married, and they don't think a thing about it, and just move, that kind of thing. So that needs to be your mindset when you're going into adoption, that you are going into it with a loving spirit, a happy heart, and you're doing what you can do right then to make a difference. And I just really think that's so important, because so many people get bogged down thinking, what if in 12 years I don't talk to them 5 times a day? Well, you know what? You're not going to talk to your biological kids 5 times a day. So you just have to do what you can where you are with what you got right then.
Definitely. And I think that I didn't realize that Michael and Collins were the same age, which means that you did what so many adoptive families do, which is like accidentally adopt pseudo twins. I have a set of those as well. And even though they are 5.5 months apart, they function just like twins. And it makes my life very interesting, we'll say. Was that fun growing up?
It was, and Collins tells the story when she speaks. It's kind of funny that when she was a freshman, when they were freshmen in college at Ole Miss, she was a varsity cheerleader. He was obviously playing Division I football. Both are very time-consuming and very grueling. To be a student athlete is very, very time-consuming, and you don't have a lot of downtime, a lot of free time. And so she just talked about her brother all the time. And they were 4 or 5 weeks into school, and, she just kept saying, my brother's a freshman, and I have a brother the same age, and I want my brother to come over to the sorority house and eat lunch. And she just would just talk about Michael all the time. Well, everybody just assumed that she had a twin brother. And finally, they were 6 or 7 weeks into school, the first semester, and they finally had an off weekend, and they had like a day that was they had a break. And she had said, Bubby, come and eat lunch with me at the sorority house. And he was like, she goes, look, I'm going to make you a pecan pie, one of his favorite desserts. And she said, this is awesome. She said, it's Taco Tuesday, and he loves tacos. And so he goes, that's awesome. So they set up, he was going to meet her for lunch. Well, Collins is always late. Michael's always 10 minutes early, and he got there a little before she did, and he was getting a lot of interesting stares. And finally, one of the girls said, may we help you? And he said, well, I'm meeting my sister for lunch. And she goes, oh, okay. Well, about that time, here comes Collins bouncing up to the house, and she gives him a big hug. I'm so sorry, I'm late. Come on, let's go in for lunch. And like all the girls are just staring at him and just shocked. And so they get inside, and several of the girls come over, and they go, oh, my gosh, Collins, we thought you had a twin brother. We thought you just come in, your brother was a freshman. Gosh, we thought he was a twin. And Collins looked at him, and she goes, oh, please don't tell him we're not twins. He thinks we are. and truly, that was kind of their mentality, and that was one of the, Michael complains about things in the movie, and SJ complains too. I'm like, I know this is really going to upset both of y'all, but this movie's really not about either one of y'all, so y'all need to get over it. But the movie portrayed Collins a year younger than Michael, and he was like, well, it's just ridiculous. Why would they do that? I mean, why would they do that? I'm like, I don't know, but what does it matter? It doesn't matter. But no, they are very close in age, and they are very close. And he thinks the sun rises and sets on her, and vice versa. And they have major moments and major history. I mean, Collins has migraine headaches. That child's driven her to the hospital more times, and he gets, she is thrown up in my truck, and I'm like, well, I am just really sorry, but so it is. You would not know that they were not raised from birth in the same house.
I love hearing this story like from you. It's just so cool because I've probably seen the movie 10 times. But just getting to hear it from you is super special. So what do you wish you had known at the beginning of this journey? Somebody just looks you in the eye and they say, Leanne, you need to know this.
I think the one thing that I wish someone had looked at me right in my eyes and said would have been, you are going to meet a lot of stupid people on this journey. Ignore them and plow on. Because I really had to deal with a lot of people giving me their opinions and telling me what they thought that I needed to do and how I needed to do something. And in reality, and I worried over it and I fretted over it, and I was like, I don't know, And in reality, I just should have looked at him and said, shut up. And that was a word that we didn't even allow to be said in our house, but it needed to be said. And because, people think they're all-seeing, all-knowing. People that aren't involved in this arena don't know anything about it, but they all had an opinion. And when I first, got involved, I listened to everybody. And I processed what everybody said, and I categorized it, and I filed it away, and then I would pull it back up and go, oh, she said so-and-so, but he said so-and-so. I wonder which one I should listen to. You know what? Don't listen to any of them. Listen to your heart. And do what you think you need to do for your family and your situation and your circumstance. And 99.9% of the time, that will be the best decision that you can make. Don't listen to all these other people because they don't know. They're not you. They don't know what your family dynamics are. They don't know how you deal with things. They don't know how you process things. And that, I think, is what I wish I had done. I wish I had just had a do not disturb button that I could have just put it on and not listen to anyone. And I would have been much, much better off.
I love that. I love that answer. It's awesome. Okay, so what do you wish you had done differently?
Not had a movie made about me. We're going to let them make the next movie about somebody else. It's like everything. It has its good and its bad, and everyone has an opinion about the movie as well. And the reason that I look at it like that, sometimes I'm like going, oh, and I'm going, yeah, that really happened, and yeah, they really had a head-on crash and almost died, and oh yeah, that happened too. And then these stupid people just will, go, oh, wow. And I'm like, yeah, you should have shut up to begin with because you have no idea what you're talking about. But I say that lovingly and teasingly, but because it has given us the platform to speak and to make a difference and have a voice about this. So, yes, I truly say that in a teasing manner, but in some aspects, you are just so on display, and sometimes people just want to get involved and jump in and tell you how to handle or how you should have done it or why did you do this or why did you do that. And I'm like, it's really none of your business. So, so there's goods and bads, but I don't really necessarily know if I had have thrown the dart, would I've said, I think that they need to make a movie about this. But in reality, no one anticipated this. This was a very low-budget film. No one had any insight that it was going. We weren't involved in the movie. We had nothing to do with the movie. We made no money on the movie. This was consent to write an article for a newspaper, and from that it became a book, and from the book it sold to be a movie. And even at that point, so many people's books sell to be movies and never, ever become movies, and certainly don't become movies on a fast track like this one. I mean, it was like within 2.5 years all this happened, like boop, 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 boop. So you look at it, and it's still prevalent. It's still shown. It's on TV. It's in some country. It's shown every single day somewhere, multiple times, and that's not coincidence. That's not a fluke. that's not fate. That is a God-driven situation, because people look at that movie and they go, I can do this. I want to do that. How do I do that? I need to make a difference. I didn't realize that could happen. It validates to foster kids. They look at it and go, I'm worthy. I'm valuable. Somebody's going to love me. I've got a future. There's hope. I've got a chance. It's just, it has so many tentacles. It doesn't matter what your faith or tradition or your religion or anything is, you somehow can relate to that movie in some shape, form, or fashion.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely a go-to. I love it. It's such a good, and I think that I'm happy to hear that it's pretty accurate, because I think, whenever you see a movie that's based on real events, I'm a curious person, so I'm always doing the Google research to okay, what if this was made up? What if this was accurate? And so it's really good to hear that for the most part it was on point.
Yeah, they did, and the liberties that they took, Michael gets so aggravated because he goes, I was never that bad of a football player. And like I said a minute ago, I know he finds it upsetting, but it's not all about him. And the same with SJ, because, they just picked the dweebiest kid to play me. And I just, people see me right now and they just think, well, you're not that little kid. Well, I kind of laugh. I go, no, we did water and feed him, and he grew up, and he's a strapping 6'1", good-looking kid. And I go, SJ, I hate that upsets you, but, I don't know what to tell you, because John, the liberties he took, I think he really wanted to show what a vast gap that Michael closed in such a quick amount of time, because Michael's studies, he just had a horrible academic upbringing, and he was very far behind in a lot of aspects. And so John used the analogy of football to show you how quickly Michael overcame so many obstacles, and that just happened to be a analogy that he used. And so, Michael wasn't that bad of a football player, and if that's upsetting to people, really, that's what you're gonna drag out, and then whatever people say about the white family saving the black kid, or the black kid making the white family too ethnic. You know what? Those are your opinions, and everyone's entitled to an opinion, but no one wants to hear it. That's my life. It's my story. If you don't like it, don't watch it, but don't worry about it. And so, those kind of things you just deal with. They don't bother me. We just deal with them and move on. And, people go, oh, my gosh, do you carry a gun? Yeah, I carry a gun everywhere I go. That's how I was raised. That's what I do. That's who I am. If you don't like it, that's okay. You don't have to, but I don't have to not be me because you don't like who I am. So, you just deal with those kind of things and you move on. But for the most part, they did a really, really, really good job with it, probably as well as any, movie ever done. They did, sure, they took a few liberties, but not as many as they could have. And for that, we're very appreciative.
I love that. And, I have to say, as a Razorback, we are very grateful to have SJ up here. And we're grateful that he has kind of come into his own and that he's not that little dweeby kid that he thinks was portrayed. No,
and he is not. And the Razorback Nation has been so great to him. And we have loved it. He has loved it. I'd been to Fayetteville numerous times, cheered there. Michael and Collins, both, Collins cheered, and Michael played, and Sean played basketball. We were always in and out. You'd get there, go to your sporting event, and you'd leave. And so obviously we clearly have gotten to spend a large amount of time up there in the last year or so. And what a great community and what a great area. And we've loved it. Fayetteville, Bentonville, Rogers, all that area is it's awesome. And so that has truly been a wonderful experience for SJ. And he's very, very happy there. And when your kid's happy, you're happy. So that's a good thing.
Definitely. And we're grateful to have him. Okay, last question. If you could just sum it all up into one piece of, advice or encouragement to adoptive moms, what would you say?
I think the one encouraging thing that I would tell any adoptive mom is that we all have the ability to make a difference, and adoptive moms more than anyone. And give yourself a chance and take that leap of faith and step out of your comfort zone. And I think in the end that you are the one that is going to reap the reward and the benefit far more than anyone else will. And it is scary. and you go, oh my gosh, it's 7 steps up and 8 steps back. But it will be one of the most gratifying things that you do, knowing that you have been the reason that someone smiles, that you have changed a life, and that you are that change. And you're needed, and I cannot tell you how amazing it is to be the person that is the reason that someone finds joy, happiness, opportunity, and the realization that they are of value and that they're worthy.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, good stuff, Miss Leanne Toohey. I'm so grateful to you for coming on the show and just sharing your wisdom with us and being that advocate. You know, I know you said that you never sought out to be a role model or an advocate for adoptive moms, but I'm grateful that you let us come along even over social media. And thank you for speaking to my audience and just giving us some encouragement and some hope for this crazy adoption world that we're all a part of.
Well, thank you for having me, and blessings to all.
Thank you so much for listening to the Adoptive Mom Podcast. I hope you found encouragement here. I need you to know that you are enough and you're doing a great job. We are all in this together, and I am over here cheering you on. Don't forget to check out show notes for this episode and other resources at theadoptivemompodcast.com. Thanks for joining us.